This lake is mine, and you'll never set foot on it. That's what the HOA tyrant, Karen, bellowed at me after calling the cops on my moving truck at my new Lakeside cabin. I thought she was just unhinged, but then I uncovered something that made my blood boil. She'd been illegally controlling the entire lake for years. What happened next was so satisfying I still can't believe it worked. Let's just say when you cross the wrong person, karma sometimes arrives with official government documents. The revenge was completely legal and utterly devastating. Comment where you're watching from. This story gets wild. A furious pounding on my door jolted me from my chair. "Police, sir, step outside, please. We've had multiple complaints about a disturbance." I'm staring at my laptop, dumbfounded, because just 2 hours earlier everything was fine. Let me backtrack and explain how this madness began. It was moving day, one of the happiest days I'd had in ages. I'd rented a massive U-Haul, called some friends to help, and we were making great time unloading at my new cabin. The weather was perfect, sunny with a cool breeze, and I remember thinking this was the fresh start I'd dreamed of. The truck was parked in front of my place, taking up some street space, but it's moving day, right. Where else do you park a 26-foot truck? I figured neighbors would get it. Everyone's moved at some point. Then she appeared. Picture the ultimate Karen, amplified to the extreme. Linda. Yep, that's her real name. Came storming across the street like she was leading a one-woman crusade. Mid-50s with a flawless blonde bob that probably cost more than my rent giant designer sunglasses despite the late hour, and a scowl like she'd just smelled rotten fish. She wasn't walking. She was charging, radiating fury from a block away. "Who said you could park that eyesore here?" she shrieked, skipping any semblance of civility. "This is private property, and you're ruining our community's value." I'm standing there, holding a box of dishes, blindsided by this stranger acting like I'd just torched her lawn. My friends froze, probably wondering if this woman had lost her mind. I tried to stay calm, giving her the benefit of the doubt. Maybe she was having a rough day. "Ma'am, I'm sorry if this is an issue," I said, setting down the box with my most diplomatic tone. "I'm just moving in. The truck'll be gone in an hour or two." But Linda wasn't interested in reason. She thrust up a hand like a traffic cop and whipped out her phone, dialing 911 before I could blink. "I don't care how long you think it'll take," she yelled into the phone. "There's a trespasser blocking our private road with an illegal vehicle." She described me to the dispatcher like I was a fugitive holding the neighborhood hostage, throwing around terms like public nuisance and safety threat. I'm thinking, lady, I'm just moving boxes into my house. This is as normal as it gets. But Linda was on a mission, pacing dramatically, gesturing like she was reporting a terrorist plot. My friends and I stood there, watching this unfold like a bad reality show. 15 minutes later, 2 cops rolled up, looking as confused as I felt. The older officer glanced at Linda, then at me and my friends with our moving boxes, then back at Linda with a look that screamed, "Really?" The younger cop was already rolling his eyes. "Ma'am," the older officer said, his voice dripping with weary patience, "this is the 3rd time this week you've called about neighborhood issues." They checked my ID and house purchase papers, which I had on hand because I'm not clueless. After confirming I lived there, they politely asked if I could move the truck sooner to keep the peace. "No problem, officers," I said, because I don't argue with cops over nonsense. They warned Linda not to waste police time on non-emergencies and left, probably relieved to escape. As Linda stomped back to her house, muttering and glaring, it hit me. This woman called the cops on me for moving into my own home. This wasn't a misunderstanding. She thought she could control what I did on my property, and was ready to weaponize law enforcement to enforce it. That's when I thought, oh, hell no. She picked the wrong guy to mess with. But Linda didn't know I'm not someone you can bully. What do you think happened next? Drop a fire emoji if you've dealt with a crazy neighbor. That night, after my friends left and I returned the truck, I couldn't sleep. Linda's performance, especially her obsession with the Homeowners Association HOA and private property, gnawed at me. It felt like she wasn't just talking about the street. She kept mentioning the lake like it was her personal kingdom. So, like any reasonable person in 2024, I dove into an internet rabbit hole. I spread my closing documents across the kitchen table, fired up my laptop, and pored over every page. HOA bylaws, community rules, the deed, everything. Most of it was standard. Mow your lawn, no neon house paint, clean up after your pets. But then I hit the lake section and alarm bells started ringing. The HOA claimed exclusive oversight of the lake and its activities. I'm no lawyer, but as a software engineer, I'm used to spotting shady fine print in contracts. The language was vague, lots of traditional access rights and community management duties, but no clear proof the HOA owned the lake. It just implied control without explaining how. The next morning, I went on a fact-finding mission. I started with George, an older neighbor 2 houses down, who was tending his garden when I introduced myself. He had the kind of warm smile that was the polar opposite of Linda's hostility. "Welcome, kid," he said. "Sorry about yesterday's circus. Linda's been making life hell for everyone." Over coffee on his porch, George shared stories that made my jaw drop. Linda had driven out 3 families in 2 years. The couple next door had to rehome their dog because Linda filed daily noise complaints until the city threatened fines. Another family left after Linda's endless code enforcement reports drained their savings. But here's what always bugged me. George said, lowering his voice, that lake used to be open to everyone. Kids swam, families fished, no permits, no fees. Then Linda took over the HOA 5 years ago, and suddenly it's members only. "What do you mean, open to everyone?" I asked. George leaned back, thoughtful. "Before Linda, the lake was public. We'd have barbecues, kids' birthday parties. It was like a community park. Then she put up signs, started charging fees, and acted like she owned it. Always seemed shady, but nobody wanted to challenge her." My next stop was Sarah, a mom across the lake who was pushing her son on a swing. Her face fell when I mentioned the lake. "Linda banned my kids from the shore," she said, her voice tight. "Said it was HOA only and threatened to call the cops if they went near it. My son cried for days. That beach is where he learned to swim, where he built sandcastles. It's his childhood." The more Sarah talked, the angrier I got. This wasn't about property values. Linda was stealing memories, breaking community bonds. How many others has she hurt? I asked. Sarah glanced around nervously. "Everyone's too scared to fight back. Linda knows people at City Hall, code enforcement. She'll make your life miserable until you give in or leave." But Linda wasn't done with me. Over the next few days, her attacks escalated. First came an official HOA notice claiming my lawn was half an inch too tall, demanding a $500 fine. Then she plastered "No fishing, HOA members only" signs around the lake. She even patrolled in a golf cart, snapping photos of anyone near the water like a wannabe cop. The final straw, a security camera aimed straight at my front door. Not the street, not her property, but my house. This woman was unhinged, believing she could surveil and control everyone. So I dug deeper, scouring county records, state park databases, and federal land management sites. Then I found it, the bombshell that changed everything. The lake wasn't HOA property. It wasn't even private. It was state-owned, managed by the Department of Natural Resources, with public access guaranteed by law. Linda had been lying to the entire neighborhood for years. Comment exposed. If you think Linda's about to get what's coming, Linda's reaction to my moving day defiance was to double down with a spectacle. She announced a Lake Day celebration to honor our exclusive lake and the HOA commitment to property values, a clear jab at me. She went all out. Catered food, photographers, a sound system, and banners screaming "Linda's Lake, HOA members only." She even invited a local news crew to cover her community triumph. But her arrogance was her downfall. She'd handed me the perfect stage to expose her. I spent the week preparing, printing official documents and calling state agencies. The Department of Natural Resources confirmed the lake was public and said restricting access was a serious violation, potentially a federal offense. If someone's been blocking state property for years, we need to investigate now, the official told me. On the day of Linda's event, I arrived with a backpack full of evidence and a megaphone. The party was in full swing, 50 people eating barbecue, listening to Linda's speech about protecting our elite community asset. She stood on a stage, sunglasses on despite the cloudy sky, acting like she ruled the world. Ladies and gentlemen, Linda declared, today we celebrate our lake and our dedication to keeping outsiders out. That's when I switched on my megaphone. Excuse me, Linda, I said, my voice slicing through her speech. Can you show us the deed proving the HOA owns this lake? The crowd froze, conversations halting as all eyes turned to me. Linda's smug grin vanished, replaced by fury. This is a private event, and you're trespassing. She screeched. Security, remove this troublemaker. Her security was just her husband by the grill, looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. I held up my documents. Actually, Linda, these papers from the state prove this lake is public property, accessible to everyone. You've been lying for years. The crowd started murmuring, phones out, recording the drama. Linda screamed, those are fake. He's trying to ruin our community. But a real estate agent in the crowd examined my documents and said, these are legit. State letterhead, official seals. Another neighbor checked the state's website and gasped, he's right. It's public land. Linda lost it, ranting about conspiracies and outside agitators. The news reporter, meant to cover her success, asked, if this is state property, what right did the HOA have to restrict access? Linda grabbed the microphone, yelling, I'm calling the police. But when the cops arrived, they confirmed my documents were real and told Linda she'd been breaking the law. As her party collapsed, neighbors thanked me, sharing their own stories of Linda's bullying. A state official arrived, issued Linda a warning, and promised a full investigation. As I walked home, I saw Linda staring at the lake she'd claimed, her empire crumbling. But people like her don't give up easily. Comment justice, if you love seeing bullies exposed. If I thought exposing Linda would make her back off, I was wrong. The next morning, my neighborhood was plastered with yellow flyers featuring my face and troublemaker alert, in bold red. Linda had spent the night crafting posters calling me a dangerous outsider using fake documents to destroy property values. She called the cops every time I left my house, claiming I was suspiciously loitering near the lake. The same officers, now visibly fed up, told me, we know you're fine, but we have to respond to her calls. Maybe steer clear of the lake when she's around. I wasn't about to let her scare me off public land. Instead, I started recording her antics. Her biggest mistake came on a Saturday when I went fishing at the public dock. Linda blocked the boat ramp with her golf cart, wearing a tacky security vest. Stop, she shouted. This is private property and I'll have you arrested. I started filming. Linda, this is public land confirmed by the state. She stepped in front of me, screaming about her HOA authority. Then she grabbed my phone, trying to delete the video. Linda, you just committed assault and attempted evidence destruction. I said as she fumbled with my phone, unaware it was live streaming to the cloud. She ranted, admitting she'd banned people from her lake for years, confessing to illegal restrictions on camera. I called the Department of Natural Resources, reporting her assault and video evidence. We'll be there tomorrow, they said. That night, Linda escalated, spray painting outsider on my driveway, scattering my trash and trying to cancel my internet with fake complaints. Each act just added to my evidence. Her final mistake was a false 911 call, claiming I'd threatened her during a non-existent confrontation. but I was in a virtual work meeting with 12 witnesses at the time she claimed I was at her house. The police, fed up, charged her with filing false reports. Watching them arrest her felt like justice, but also strangely heavy. She'd thrown away everything for control over something that wasn't hers. Comment karma, if you think she's about to face the consequences. Monday brought a sight that warmed my heart. 3 state vehicles, a news van, and half the neighborhood watching. Investigator Maria Lopez, a no-nonsense official, led the charge. "Mr. Ryan," she said, shaking my hand, "your evidence is airtight. This is one of the clearest cases of public property abuse I've seen." Her team photographed Linda's signs, measured restricted areas, and interviewed neighbors. George revealed Linda charged $50 to fish on the public dock. Sarah shared how Linda called CPS on her for letting her kids play on the beach. Linda's own social media post, boasting about keeping undesirables out, and listing lake access fees, sealed her fate. "She's documented her own crimes for years," Maria said. At an emergency HOA meeting, Maria dropped the hammer. "The HOA has violated state law for 5 years. This lake is public, and restricting access is a federal offense." The crowd gasped. Due to systematic violations and financial exploitation, the HOA lake privileges are revoked immediately. The room erupted. Linda's actions had cost everyone access. She screamed about conspiracies, but the evidence was undeniable. The HOA board voted unanimously to oust her, even her husband voting against her. George became interim president, apologizing to everyone Linda had hurt. The next day, state workers tore down Linda's signs, including her Linda's Lake banner, as she watched from her porch, defeated. 3 months later, the lake was alive again. Families picnicked, kids swam, and neighbors walked the shore. But Linda had become a shadow, wandering alone, her confidence gone. George told me her husband left after the investigation, unable to handle the legal fallout and humiliation. "She wasn't always like this," he said. "Her divorce broke her, and the HOA was all she had. It didn't excuse her, but it explained her desperation. One evening I saw Linda slip on wet rocks by the lake and fall in, flailing and screaming, 'Help, I can't swim.' For a moment I hesitated. She'd tormented me for months, but my mom's words echoed, 'Being good isn't about what others deserve, it's about who you are.' I paddled my kayak to her, pulling her to shore as she sobbed, coughing up water. 'Why save me after everything I did?' she asked, shivering. 'Because I'm not the person you tried to make me?' I said. A week later, Linda came to my deck looking broken. 'I've lost everything. My house, my job, my savings,' she said. 'Why did you help me after I tried to ruin you?' I explained I fought her actions, not her as a person. That conversation shifted something. I wrote to the state, requesting the HOA lake privileges be restored with strict oversight. No leadership for Linda, public access guaranteed, and state permits required. Maria called, stunned. 'Your compassion is unprecedented. We're approving your request.' The community was amazed, and even Linda sent a letter thanking me for showing true leadership. What would you have done? Comment second chances if you believe in redemption.